Why, hello there! You're listening to Earth Day here on MAV Radio, KVNO 90.7 HD2, Power with MAV Radio.
Sandy beaches, vibrant rainforests, bustling cities, vast deserts, beautiful oceans, unique people. All these things make up Earth. Let's celebrate it together. Welcome to Earth Day Live 2019.
Hello and welcome to the 6th annual edition of Earth Day Live here at mavradio.fm. I am one co-host, Ryan Fitzgibbons, alongside my second co-host, Gabriel Escalera. Gabriel, how are you doing?
I am great, Ryan. I am the other co-host, and man, we have Harrison Popp on the controller today, and it's awesome. I'm excited. I'm happy to be here, man.
And a shout out to our social media team member, Erin Chance, also here.
They are working their fingers to the bones.
Yeah, they really are. But we have an awesome show coming up. Man. We have 2 live interviews, stories ranging from possibly maybe should be illegal drugs like kratom to birthright citizenship to the buses here in Omaha. Just a very diverse show of different things coming up.
I would say everything that concerns us about the Earth. Everything is going to be sort of related to, obviously it's related, but I think this time is just we went over, what it's supposed to be about. It's going to be amazing, man.
And I think what's so cool about it, right, is that, like I said, the stories are so different, but that's because everything relates to the Earth, right? We have stories about people, but hey, people live on this Earth. We have stories about the environment. We have stories about pollution, It really can just be a story about anything.
I guess what I think about when I think about Earth Day, Ryan, I just keep thinking about how can we make this world a better world?
Yeah.
Like the song, it is just related to it. So let's just hopefully we can get to someone's today and, change a little bit about whatever it is that you do that makes a difference, towards this, our planet.
See, I feel like getting to listen to these stories that, the listeners will get to listen to in a bit, whenever I thought of Earth Day, I always thought of the environment, right? I always thought of, okay, hey, it's Earth Day, it's spring now, we're talking trees, we're talking pollution, we're talking, littering in the oceans. But a lot of these stories have really opened up, like, you know what? Yeah, that is part of Earth Day. Earth Day can be so much more than just, hey, it's all about the environment. What is your favorite part about, like, Earth Day, or like, do you normally celebrate Earth Day?
Well, yeah, and I do have, I've been thinking about this. I do have 2 things that like my favorite things to think about in Earth Day. Number 1, I recycle. I do recycle the heck out of recycling things. So I'm so happy to that. I'm teaching my daughters to recycle, and they know the system. So that is one, and I think the other thing that I really liked about Earth Day is family. Family, keeping a family together. I think that's all my favorite things to talk about in Earth Day, man.
Yeah, when I think of Earth Day, I immediately also think of, like, when it comes to celebration stuff, I just think of the weather, because normally, Omaha can be a little different, right? It might still be like 20 degrees some years, but at least this year in particular, the weather's finally getting nice. So you get to actually go out and celebrate Earth Day outdoors, right? Maybe a barbecue, hang out in the sun. And that's always extra nice.
Let's just hope it stays that way. It's only one. So let's just hope the weather stays that way, right?
Yeah, and Earth Day is this Monday, April 22nd. And I don't know if you know this, but you know that it started in 1970 by a peace activist named John McConnell. And in 1969, he basically said, hey, I just want to he went to the government and was like, I want to start a day where we celebrate the Earth, like we celebrate nature. Let's get this done. And it only took him a year. So in 1970... the U.S. had its first ever Earth Day, and we've had one ever since.
Man, see, those are the ideas I will never get myself. Like, let's celebrate Earth. I don't know if I would ever come up with that idea, but this is the great idea. Was a great idea.
To me, it's crazy that we didn't. 1970 seems kind of late. The Earth has been around for a long time.
We just started to celebrate around.
But you know what? Since 1970, it's come a long way. Now Earth Day is celebrated in over 193 different countries.
Yep. So we're getting there. We're getting somewhere, So that's amazing. Real thing that I wanted to mention that is kind of a sad part this morning doing my radio show that I do every Friday. wildfires in Mexico too. 200 acres, man. Oh my God. And the reporter that I talked to, we're talking about this. What are we going to do with all the animals? They were fighting for a place to get these animals on it. So not just the nature, it's just the whole environment getting messed up. That's something bad that happens, close to Earth Day.
Yeah, and I'm from California, so we've had our share of wildfires, and I think that what people don't understand is like the two things that really happen with wildfires is it destroys everything. Mm-hmm. So all the animals that do survive, everything that they would kind of normally, that ecosystem is destroyed. So they have to, move from that location to a whole other one so that they can survive. Mm-hmm. So being in California, that meant coming, from the mountains down into like the suburbs. So you would see like coyotes like roaming the street,
running away from something. Yes.
Because they had nowhere else to go. And then the other thing too is that like when you have wildfires, especially in like mountainous areas, that means like after a fire means like mudslides, which is something that like here in Omaha, since it's not very mountainy, you don't have to deal with, but instead we have to deal with floods in Omaha. So
man, there's one way or another, right? All right, well, we're gonna get going here shortly with stories. I mean, the first one that I see on the list is gonna be a great story about the old market. I mean, I love Omaha. When I came here a long time ago, I was like, what's Omaha, And the best way to get to know is to get to know the city. And I did. It took me a day or so to learn about the story of Omaha itself, and it's like I was amazed. I was like, I like Omaha. I really do, Ryan.
No, I agree. And it is funny because when you do first come to Omaha, the first place that most people will take you is straight to Old Market, right?
Yep.
You get here and they're like, oh, you're new to Omaha? Let's head down to the Old Market. So coming up after this first break, we will have a story about the Old Market. Thanks for listening to Earth Day Live 2019 on mavradio.fm.
You're listening to mavradio.fm. Stay tuned for more of our annual Earth Day broadcast.
You're listening to the Earth Day broadcast with Mav Radio.
Welcome back, everyone. We're just getting started here with this Earth Day celebration. It is nice to be here. And as we were talking about before the break about Omaha, downtown Omaha, well, we know that Omaha is known for many, many things, right? Everybody knows the zoo. Everybody knows the baseball games, the World Series. Also, people know about Warren Buffett, one of the richest men here and lives in Omaha. But maybe no one knows that the city of Omaha displays a great downtown. Omaha's Old Market, located near the Missouri River, is nearly a $2 billion industry that boasts an eclectic mix of local business and rich history. As I was telling, I love the history. Take a walk with Josiah Navarro through these brick-laid streets and bustling activities of Omaha's heart.
If you find yourself walking the cobblestone streets of the Old Market, you'll immediately notice that it lives up to its name. Made up of buildings from Omaha's youth, the area feels completely different from the rest of the city. Each building holds history, and every brick tells a story. Let's go back to the beginning of the 20th century, when Union Pacific began connecting the east to the west through Omaha. The market was home to grocery stores, warehouses, and retailers. Canopies draped over the sidewalks, and vendors set up shop and sold their good to passerbys. The market connected the nearby communities of Council Bluffs, Benson, Dundee, and South Omaha. It was the center of bustling activity for the young city. The Old Market thrived in the first half of the 20th century, but Omaha's westward expansion sharply decreased the activity of the Old Market by the 50s. Many newspapers claimed that the Old Market was dead, and the buildings were threatened with demolition. Public opinion of the area called it dirty, unsanitary, a blemish on the city. However, there was one family who saw the value of the rich history that the area held and sought out to keep the Old Market alive. The Mercers began renovating the old warehouses to become attractive for new businesses. They worked tirelessly to bring new life to the market. However, city officials and the public did not see the vision that the Mercers had. Many business owners were subject to harsh building codes, backlash, and even arrests in an effort to subdue their efforts of reimagining the Old Market. Despite this, young people caught on to the vision. The Old Market became a hotbed for the alternative in the arts. It attracted circuses, musicians, artists, street performers, the avant-garde. The atmosphere was vibrant, creative, lively. Through the 70s and the 80s, public opinion began to see what the Mercers saw all along: a piece of history, a valuable community, the heart of Omaha. Long gone are the days of canopy retailers in the Old Market. A whole new generation walks the streets now. Now the Old Market boasts unique local businesses, restaurants, and events. Take the Imaginarium, for example, an extremely unique antique shop. Follow me inside and take a look around. The Imaginarium is an antique store containing almost anything you could think of. Star Wars memorabilia, thousands of Legos, old Coke signs, vintage cameras, anything. You are bound to spend hours moving up and down the aisles and weaseling into every corner, finding something that reminds you of your childhood, an oddity that piques your interest, or something so weird that you can't help but wonder how it got there. UNL student Daniel Benson visits the Imaginarium every time he makes a trip to the Old Market.
The Imaginarium holds everything. I found these gloves that are like knit and they look like the Infinity Gauntlet. That was pretty cool.
Now if you follow me just down the road, you'll find Homer's Music and Gifts, a music shop located on Howard Street. Homer's boasts Nebraska's largest selection of new and used CDs, vinyls, DVDs, and more. When you open the door, you are immediately met with stacks of boxes filled to the brim of used CDs, and just behind it are aisles and shelves filled with vinyls, cassettes, and movies. Omaha resident Katie Jones recalls a fond memory of finding a special vinyl record at the store.
I really like it just because I can find affordable things. I found like a Frank Sinatra one that I really liked. It's my first one, and it was just like a live thing from New York City.
The Old Market is also home to a thriving bar scene, with bars such as Billy Frog's, the Parliament Pub, the Tavern, and many more. Many stay open till 2 a.m. on the weekends, and many restaurants and food outlets also stay open, creating a vibrant nightlife and atmosphere. Another Omaha resident, Joel Wagman, enjoys being a part of the downtown bar community.
It's a nice summer night. I'll get off work, I'll meet up with some friends and we'll go downtown. We'll typically go to a bar and then we'll hit up maybe like Spaghetti Works or the Pepper Jacks or like the Subway that's down there.
The Old Market also holds a farmer's market every summer and fall. Over 90 vendors set up shop every Saturday from May to October. Paige Johnson remembers visiting the Old Market as a child.
So when I was a kid, I can remember being down there, and I was probably in second grade, and we went to the farmer's market, and then we went to Spaghetti Works, and I just remember I always wanted to go back because that was super fun. I was with my family.
The Old Market also has many small treasures and unique finds that one could only find if they spent enough time looking, such as the Old Market Passageway. Located on Howard Street, the passageway is an old alleyway turned into a vegetation-filled wonder with 3 levels of restaurants, art galleries, and bookstores. You may think you're walking into another local business, but once you step inside, you are greeted with skylight, brick walls, and more unique businesses inhabiting the spaces. It's a hot spot for photography and selfies, and another location that Joel regularly visits.
I find myself going in there a lot. I've been in there multiple times and it still just attracts my attention. All the greenery, the brick walls, and the vegetation that it has in there. Really, I get a different vibe in there.
The Old Market is a place beloved by Omahans and out-of-towners alike. It provides a unique experience and vibrant atmosphere, giving something a little bit different from the more typical city life that the rest of Omaha has. Many love the Old Market exactly for that.
It's been there since the whole so many blocks since it started. Like, they've been there because, like, I think Hollywood Candy's been there forever, Ted and Wally's been there forever, Passageway's been there forever, and then some of the restaurants down there.
You have like all the different shops and everything. You can walk in, walk out. People like that kind of lifestyle.
It's kind of just its own little place, and that you can just walk around. It's something to do in Omaha. That's something that you can do for free.
The culture there is very likable. Like the music, the artwork, and the food. You can just walk down the street and just see some like street performers. It's different. It's not like the rest of the city where it's just all like just work and it's like business professional or whatever, just something different, something alternative.
For MavRadio.fm, I'm Josiah Navarro.
As you all can hear, the Omaha Old Market is full of history, wonder, and uniqueness. Omaha has many claims to fame, but no one can compare to the atmosphere and endless adventures that the Old Market offers. The reporter Josiah Navarro that is walking the cobblestone streets is right now live. How are you, Josiah?
Doing good, man. Doing good.
All right. I thought we lost you there for a second.
Spaghetti Works. I can hear you.
Hey, first of all, how is the Old Market this morning?
Oh, it's doing great, dude. There's musicians out on the corners of the sidewalks. Got a saxophone player. We got a cello player. People walking around. It's great.
Live music is my thing, so I should stop by later today. Let me ask you, what were some of the challenges that the Old Market faced after the 50s when the Mercers were pushing to make that area a little bit better?
So I think the biggest challenge was just convincing the city and the public that it was worth investing, putting businesses back to the Old Market. They faced a lot of crazy things, like the city put a bunch of harsh codes on the buildings. The people that were living in the apartments above the stores and businesses, they tried like evicting them multiple times. Business owners were arrested. Just really the biggest challenge was just like convincing people to give it a chance. And there's a book about it that the Merchants actually wrote that detail a lot of what happened during that time.
Interesting times. I didn't really know about that, so I'm just gonna get that book. So.
Yeah, and you say they wanted people to give it a chance. I think that you can definitely say people did give it a chance and people liked it because it's always busy there. So what's the economic impact that the Old Market actually has on this city? Because it's always busy.
So the economic impacts, Omaha World Herald put out an article 2017 that in the 2016 year, it brought in nearly $2 billion into Omaha's economy. And that's counting all the restaurants and retail and transportation and businesses. Like, that's crazy. That much money, in the World Herald article, supports 1 in 17 jobs here in Omaha. Like, that's just how impactful the Old Market is on Omaha's economy. Like, people love this place, and they come spend their money here.
That's amazing. What are some of your personal favorite spots to visit in the Omaha Old Market?
Every time I come here, I always stop in the Imaginarium. I just love looking around. I don't even have to buy anything. Like, there's so many cool things to find there. I always go to Homer's record stores. I'm a music guy, so I could spend hours in there, man, just searching and combing through the records. And yeah, I mean, other than that, I like just walking around, listening to the street musicians. Like, I'm listening to a saxophone player right now, like, and he's amazing. There's a cello player on the other side of the street who's also amazing. Like, it's such a vibrant atmosphere that I just love spending time here. I've never gotten tired of this place.
Very nice. Well, it was great having you over the phone, and just go ahead and keep enjoying the morning in the Old Market. Well, just so you know, nearly 50,000 Nebraskan farmers have to decide how to manage the practices each year. So we have reported Charlotte Rayleigh takes us to the Durham Science Center, where researchers are studying how could help to prevent soil erosion.
To outsiders, Nebraska seems like one long cornfield on the way to Colorado. To Nebraskans, those fields are money in the bank.
You can see your return from your work, and it's rewarding.
University of Nebraska at Omaha student Dylan Klein is helping farmers see that conservation and productivity go hand in hand through a study of tilled and no-till fields. No-till fields are covered in crop residue, but soil in tilled fields is broken up and exposed.
In the process of breaking up that soil, you lose the aggregation, which is the natural way a soil clumps together.
Dylan studied how till and no-till soils hold on to nutrients after rain.
The major difference was no-tilled soil does hold on to moisture better. It's less compacted, it's more aggregated. No-tilled soil doesn't hold on to nitrate, nitrite, or phosphates any better than tilled soil, but it does hold on to dissolved organic carbon better.
The residue, or leftover corn and bean stalks, act as armor against heavy rain events.
Since 1860, we've lost the top 12 inches of soil in this county. It's down the Mississippi River to Louisiana, and we don't even get a Christmas card from those folks.
No-till farming methods have started to catch on with Midwestern farmers like the Fawns. Patrick Fawn hopes the methods he's using today will keep the soil profitable for future farmers like his son Liam. For the Omaha News, I'm Charlotte Riley.
Currently, 45 million acres of farms and ranches cover the state of Nebraska. Agricultural conservation techniques are essential to keep Nebraskan crops growing, and we are lucky enough to have Charlotte Riley, author of that story, in studio with us today. How are you doing, Charlotte?
I'm good. How are you?
So why did you pick this topic, the tilling versus no-tilling farming, for your story?
Well, I actually have a minor in environmental science, and I have worked for the Natural Resource Conservation Service for a couple summers. And their main focus is soil conservation and water conservation, as well as keeping the waters clean, because all of that soil, if it's not conserved, it gets washed into the water, and all of those, pesticides and insecticides get into our water, which is harmful. So that's kind of where I got the idea.
Charlotte, I got a quick question for you. Did you think about doing this story because of the Earth Day, or just because it is in your nature to talk about this?
I personally just like writing about any type of science. That's what I enjoy most. I like figuring things out, understanding complex things. So these are kind of the stories I always go towards if I can. And I've found that these types of stories are what I excel in, I think. So I usually lean to write towards scientific topics.
Scientific topics, nice. What about so Earth Day? Now, let me just ask you also, what does this day, celebration day, means to you? Since we're talking about it.
To me, it's just people coming together to learn about ways to practice conservation in their lives, because even though you might not think, throwing away your plastic fork once a week is going to make an impact, using reusable things and practicing conservation, even if it's just on a small scale, it does make an impact, especially if there's more and more people doing it each day.
That's right. So I think I'm going to ask everyone this. So you do recycle, right?
Yes.
Right. I'm going to ask everyone, see how many people recycle. So
I'm scared to see what happens if somebody says no, Gabriel.
I don't know. No. I'm going to go after them and teach them how to recycle.
So Charlotte, I'm wondering, what do you do to celebrate Earth Day, if anything at all?
Usually I go to Earth Day Omaha. That was actually last weekend because Easter kind of conflicted this year.
And Earth Day's on a Monday, so it's kind of...
But other than that, I kind of just go about my day like normal, nothing too special. Maybe put a Snapchat filter on, but nothing exciting.
Well, great. Thank you so much for coming into the studio.
Thank you.
You're listening to MAV Radio's award-winning Earth Day event. Don't go away. We'll be right back with more ways to help and appreciate the environment.
MavRadio.fm. Power with.
You are someone who's ahead of the pack, someone who's smarter than their peers because you've chosen to listen to MAV Radio's live Earth Day broadcast.
And welcome back to the 6th annual Earth Day live show from MavRadio.fm. I'm your co-host, Ryan Fitzgibbons, alongside Gabriel Escalera. And birthright citizenship in the United States is the practice of granting automatic citizenship to children born in American land. According to federal statute, anyone born in the United States is considered an American citizen, regardless of whether the parents are U.S. citizens, legal residents, temporary visitors, or unauthorized immigrant parents. Recently, unauthorized immigrant parents in the United States in 2016 brought the proposals by President Donald Trump and a few other conservative lawmakers to amend birthright citizenship. Reporter Ulysses Orozco dives into the history of birthright citizenship and contemporary controversies regarding the topic in the United States.
A constant tension in the early republic had the states and the federal government divided as to who could regulate citizens. Most individuals would consider looking at the Constitution to resolve the issue, but the Constitution says very little about citizenship. The previously stated constant tension in the early republic, along with one of the dirty compromises since the legacy of slavery, is the reason why very little is said about citizenship in the Constitution. It is not until the Civil War, sometimes referred to as the Second American Revolution, when the topic of classical liberalism is brought up again. One of the reasons why the issue of who is a citizen is referenced is because of the famous Supreme Court case Dred Scott versus Sanford in 1858. In this phase of radical Reconstruction, lawmakers make the ratification of the 14th Amendment conditional. Dr. Danielle Baptisti from UNO's Department of History has an expertise on American immigration and ethnic history. She is often asked to speak at public discussions on behalf of her expertise.
Quote, all persons born in the United States, that's critical language, equal protections, privileges, and immunities, especially the rights of life, liberty, property, and due process before the law. This is our birthright citizenship amendment.
That was Dr. Baptisti reading Section 1 of the 14th Amendment. This would finally answer the question of who is a citizen. It would also decide that the federal government is in charge, not the states.
It also has this very important last part talking about how no persons within the United States shall be denied equal protection before the law. That's very important for immigrants, especially unauthorized immigrants.
In 2016, 6% of the 4 million total births in the United States were babies born to unauthorized immigrant parents. Gabriel Escalera is an immigrant who came to the United States as a legal resident at the age of 17, along with his whole family.
We were fortunate enough to come authorized because my dad was able to get his work permit through the last amnesty.
The last amnesty was declared by Ronald Reagan in 1986. It is an act of forgiveness for past offenses to certain seasonal agricultural undocumented immigrants who had entered the United States before January 1st, 1982, and had resided continuously. Gabriel's father was able to get his work permit through the government's pardon, and through the pardon, he was able to get legal residency for himself and his family. Having spent most of his life here in the United States, Gabriel's father applied to become a U.S. citizen, earning dual citizenship and setting the example for his family. Shortly after, the whole Escalera family followed in his footsteps. All of them were able to access dual citizenship between the United States and Mexico. But Gabriel believes in assimilation, the process of adapting or adjusting to the culture of a group or nation.
If you get the opportunity to become citizen, be part of this country, because we came to this country as a guest, basically.
Not only does Gabriel believe in assimilation, but also he is proud to be an American.
I am proud of being here. It's a country that gave me and my whole family all the opportunities that maybe we wouldn't have if we stayed back in Mexico. With that, I keep telling myself, I keep thinking, I get the chance to live in one of the best countries in the world.
Gabriel is grateful of living in one of the better countries in the world, but does not forget his beginning. Along with his wife, Gabriel is the father of 2 U.S.-born citizen daughters. They plan to talk with them when they reach a certain age about the importance of being a U.S. citizen and not taking it for granted.
They don't know yet, and it would be so hard to explain to them now, or why is that important? But I know I'm going to talk to them.
A proposal by President Donald Trump to end birthright citizenship would deny any children born to undocumented migrants their automatic U.S. citizenship, claiming that the kids of undocumented foreign immigrants have ties to a foreign power. Through this proposal, it would be difficult to determine who could be denied their birthright citizenship. Iris Torres, a UNO student studying social work, would fall into this category. Iris is a U.S.-born citizen, daughter to previously undocumented immigrants. Her dad, in his 20s, decided to immigrate to the United States without telling anyone, essentially crossing the U.S.-Mexico border illegally.
He ended up in Florida, and he tried to find work, and that was kind of hard, and he found work in, working in, strawberry fields.
Iris's mom was born in Mexico and raised in Mexico by her grandparents, while Iris's grandmother was across the border in Texas working to send money.
So she had stayed in Tamaulipas with my great-grandparents, and they raised her. And my grandma would go and cross the border and work and send money.
But then Iris's grandmother came to a decision. She wanted to move from Texas and settle up north. Not wanting to leave her daughter behind, Iris's grandmother gave Iris's mother an ultimatum.
He's like, you can stay here or you can come with me. So my mom went.
Iris's mother immigrated to the United States illegally, but quickly assimilated by going to school and learning the English language. Fast forward, Iris's parents meet in Nebraska. Together they support each other in efforts to acquire residency.
My mom has residency now. My dad, they've had residency for like years and years. My dad recently, about 2 years ago, got his full citizenship.
But getting his full citizenship was not easy. After countless attempts of filing, taking the exam, and hiring lawyers only to be denied because of the past mistake of stealing food when he was younger, it was not until his third attempt that Iris's father gained full citizenship.
Thankfully, that got all solved, and now he has citizenship. My mom is working on citizenship.
Iris's parents, at a time in their life, were undocumented immigrants. Now both of them are legally authorized to live in the United States. The question is, would the proposal to amend birthright citizenship affect Iris? Growing up, Iris was constantly involved in extracurricular programs in her high school. She did cheerleading as a 2-time season sport, large group speech, bowling, and choir. On top of that...
Oh, and I did tennis. That's what I did. Yep. That was like my favorite. I did tennis.
But the heavy, constant pace did not stop after high school. Iris continued being involved and looking for opportunities in college. Now on her 4th year of her undergraduate studies, Iris plans to keep moving forward following her plan.
Currently, my plan is to graduate this May and take a gap year and work at my practicum placement currently, which is Promiseship. I will be there hopefully until August 2020 when I apply prior to the master's program and get in and get a master's in social work and apply that to like therapy work and become a bilingual therapist to work with child welfare.
Mexico is nowhere to be found in Iris's plan.
I don't see it as my home, but I know that's where my parents are from and that's where my culture is from, and I'm proud of that.
Home for Iris is Denison, Iowa. She's thankful for the opportunities that she has had, but does not agree with the proposal by President Donald Trump.
My first thought is it's not the child's fault. I don't think it's fair that someone would want to take that away.
Iris does not believe that those parents are doing it to be malicious. Instead, that those parents are sacrificing everything for their children. She understands that creating a safer environment is important, but only doing so in a manner that is appropriate, right, and humane.
I would hope that that would not get passed because there are families being torn. There's families being torn right now as we speak.
A substantial majority of both parties said that deporting all unauthorized immigrants would be unrealistic and that it would be better for the economy if they became legal workers. The U.S. civilian workforce includes 7.8 million unauthorized immigrants. Although polls continue to show a majority of Americans support some pathway to legal status, for the 11.7 million unauthorized immigrants living in the U.S., disagreements over what kind of impact would come from granting legal status to millions of unauthorized immigrants who entered the United States illegally continue to arise. For MavRadio.fm, I'm Ulysses Orozco.
Birthright citizenship has been an important topic of conversation in the past, currently is in the present, and definitely will be in the future. Right now, we'll go to Ulysses Orozco live at the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services office here in Omaha, Nebraska. Ulysses, how busy is it there?
It's pretty busy. So we got a bunch of people coming in and a good fairly amount of line.
Are there any forms that you need to become a U.S. citizen?
Yes, so there is a form, the N-400, and that is the form it's called a naturalization application.
What are Ulysses, this is Gabriel, what are the requirements for eligibility to become a American citizen?
you must be at least 18 years of age at the time of filing, and then you also must be a permanent resident.
And then, you touched upon it a little bit in the story. What is the naturalization process?
Yeah, so in general, the naturalization process includes a couple of steps. It's to become a U.S. citizen. So first, you determine if you are already a U.S. citizen. Then after that, you can determine your eligibility to become a U.S. citizen. And if everything is flowing, you can prepare and submit your N-400 form.
Thank you so much, Ulysses. Now, Gabriel, I recognize the voice in that story, and I believe that was you.
Yep, I had the opportunity to be interviewed by Ulysses, and this interesting topic definitely interests me. Like we were talking about in an interview, I became American citizen once I was 19 years old already. I remember the process. It was the N14 form that he was talking about. It is a long form. And we're talking about 25 pages nowadays, I think, where all the information that, it goes in it. Every single place that you lived in America, every single thing that you did, anything that you do has to be on it, and it has to be correct. And there's no way to cheat around that, And on top of that, you have to be prepared also for the live interview with an officer.
And I know in the story you also talked about how you thought it was so important to assimilate here. Why did you think that was so important, and how did you go about that?
Well, it is. I think it is the most important thing that every naturalized person that becomes an American citizen by the naturalization process. It has to be part of the process too. You have to assimilate. You have to learn how to live in a different country, how to live with other people. There's different cultures, different customs, different everything on it. It just has to be a part of it. You cannot just go without it. How
did you go about that? Or did it just kind of happen naturally from living here?
I think for me it did happen. I know for a fact that for people it's not that easy. I know also people that can spend a lot of time here in the United States and never get to that point. I don't know why. Again, for me, it kind of happened naturally. I can talk about my mother because she became American citizen just a few years ago, and she had a hard time with that a little bit. She doesn't socialize much, I guess, like we did, like I did in high school, like what now I do in college. She was not exposed to that, so I understand why some people have a hard time for that. But for me, it was fortunately it was pretty easy process.
Yeah, it's just really powerful stuff, and it's stuff that people go through every single day, and you might not think about it normally because not everybody has to go through that process.
Well, just like Ulysses mentioned, on a Friday, this place is busy. There is things going on every day in that place about anything. They have courts there happening. They decide whether sometimes families get separated right there on that court, and where Ulysses is at. So, and also tying this back to our celebration today or our show, it is what we're talking about, how important it is also families together, or what I think it is important, and I think a lot of people agree with that. Celebration of the earth, keeping families together.
Yeah, that's exactly what you said when we said, what do you think about Earth Day? You said family, and also I think I said people inhabit this earth. You can't talk about Earth Day without talking about people, and this is at heart a human issue. It's a person issue. Thank you for your insight.
Oh, you bet. I hope things get better for everyone. Well, let's go to the next one. We have parking in college campuses seems to be a countrywide frustration, and our very own UNO campus is not excluded. Rumors regarding the plans to reduce on-campus parking have been spreading within students and faculty searching for answers to what the truth is. Reporter Ellie Bridge uncovers what really is happening in the world of on-campus parking right here at UNO.
Ranging from $300 to $400, the price of parking passes on the UNO campus definitely is not pocket change. The combination of the prices, as well as the feeling from many UNO students and faculty that there is a lack of parking on the campus, leads to almost daily frustration. While you'd be hard-pressed to find anyone who hands over money to ease their parking dilemma say they're thrilled with the current system, UNO Sustainability Director Sarah Burke addresses the speculations that have been spreading throughout campus about the alleged master plan to reduce on-campus parking.
Reduce the amount of what we call single occupancy vehicles coming to campus. That is a goal that was established in our master plan in 2014.
This may not be what students want to hear.
Even without doing anything, we're going to reduce the amount of parking we have on campus.
Burke emphasizes the reason behind this is not to make life harder for UNO students.
Reason why is it takes a lot of money to upkeep parking spaces. It's super expensive. A parking garage, parking space, roughly about $20,000 a year it costs to maintain that parking spot. We don't charge you guys that.
Burke attributes that high number to electricity, potential potholes, and regular upkeep that the parking stalls need. She also says the reason the majority of parking exists on Scott campus is because there is limited space for parking on Dodge campus. This problem only continues to grow as UNO enrollment increases each year. With the increase in student population, not only does there seem to be a need for more parking, but also for more academic buildings. One of those takes precedence over the other, and it appears buildings are winning.
So the odds are really in the favor of, if we need to build a building, it's going on another parking lot. I mean, that's all we got for space. We don't have open fields that we can be like, we're going to build a parking spot right here.
Despite the potential logic behind UNO parking and sustainability's joint effort to reduce parking in the near future, it still doesn't make sense to some UNO students. Maverick student athlete Emily Peterson says she searches for parking multiple times a day. As an athlete, she plans her schedule around classes, practices, and additional time hunting for a spot to park her car. She says that makes it all the more frustrating.
Feelings towards UNO parking is annoying and crammed at times. It's really hard to find spaces to park that are close to SAP where we practice. And so I usually have to park in the garage, which sometimes can be full. So Elmwood Park is a very local spot for me.
Peterson says she literally allows for extra time in her daily planner to accommodate the parking rut.
I would say I usually plan 30 minutes to find a spot or so. I usually try and regulate my time well by finding a spot in Elmwood or just waiting out at Hyper.
Burke says there is not an exact date in the Parking and Sustainability Master Plan for when the reduction of parking will physically take place, but that it's only a matter of time.
So, someone came tomorrow and said, I want to build this building and here is $50 million to do it. That's going to probably happen tomorrow.
She says classes defeat parking in the scheme of things.
If we magically had another 10,000 students come to campus next year, there goes your parking, because that's going to take a lot out of it.
Despite the plans to reduce parking on campus, Burke emphasizes the fact that plenty of parking still exists on campus. It just may not be where the students need it most.
There is always a misnomer that there's not enough parking on campus. People always say that. We have plenty of parking. We have over 8,000 parking spots on this campus that you can pay to park in. What I like to call it is it's inconvenient parking. Most of it, well over 50% of parking, is on Scott campus.
So, are the parking rumors true? Well, yes and no. In the upcoming University of Nebraska planning meeting, more specifics regarding dates and next steps will be discussed. But for now, Campus Sustainability wants you to know that there is a spot for you. It just might require a little extra walking or shuttling.
While people always say there's not enough parking, there is plenty.
For mavradio.fm, I'm Ellie Brecht.
Although parking it's a common frustration throughout various colleges' campuses, it seems to be even worse here at UNO. So confirmation that parking reduction is in store for the future will hopefully turn the rumors from just that to the truth. Ellie is over the phone, and Ellie, can you hear us? How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Not bad. So you don't like parking in UNO, right?
Not a huge fan.
Does anybody?
Does anybody? Oh my God!
I don't think so. To be honest, I don't.
It is expensive and it's bad. But first of all, how much parking is on campus for a number of students who attend UNO?
Yeah, so when I talked to the sustainability coordinator, Sarah Burke, she was just kind of explaining all the numbers and stuff to me, and she said so there's roughly 16,000 students here at UNO, and there's 8,000 parking spots. And so she said, essentially, divide 16,000 by 8,000. So per each parking spot, there's 2 people. So really one parking spot for 2 people here on campus obviously creates, not enough parking for everyone. And then she kind of got into the logistics of why they want to emphasize just really increasing the amount of students who use the shuttle system here at UNO.
So with 2 people to every 1 parking spot, are there any solutions to this issue currently for students finding it difficult to find parking on campus?
Yeah, so Sarah also introduced something called the carpool parking pass, and honestly, that was something that I had never heard of until I interviewed her, and she said essentially what that is you can get a group of students together and split the cost of 1 parking pass and then kind of transfer it between cars. And she said the only problem with that is that only one of those cars can be parked on campus at a time. And obviously, you're going to run into quite a few issues with that unless you only have 1 or 2 classes on campus per week. So basically, she said really the only solution as of right now is for these students to get, really involved with buying these carpool passes here at UNO.
Well, now here's the tough question to answer. I guess anybody on the sustainability and parking. How do they plan on making out for plans to reduce parking?
Yep. So, like I talked about in my package, there are a lot of plans to reduce parking here on campus at UNO. And what they want to do is they're really hoping that the public transit system here in Omaha, the city of Omaha, starts to improve and increase because they work directly, our school sustainability works directly with the city of Omaha transit system, and so they're hoping that continues to improve. And then also, like I mentioned before, they just really want to improve the number of students who are using the shuttle system. And with that, they want to just improve, the reliability of the shuttle system, because I think the lack of that is a big reason that students aren't a big fan of using that either. So they really want to make UNO a campus that's a lot more walking and a lot less pulling up next to the building that your class is in, parking, and then walking in. So
let's just hope that works. Okay, Ellie, well, thank you for the information. Have a good day. Well, coming up next, we're going to be talking about something kind of related to this parking issue. It has to do with transportation. So stay tuned. You're listening to Mav Radio.fm.
You're listening to the Earth Day broadcast with Mav Radio.
I took a bite of the apple, and it tastes like down.
Yo, baby. Hey, Mav fans. You're listening to Mav Radio's Earth Day special.
I love the music.
Welcome back to Mav Radio's Earth Day Live 2019. And everybody knows that Earth Day is a time to reflect on nature, a time to think about our carbon footprints and decide how we might cut down on our impact on the Earth. A huge part of staying sustainable is reducing carbon dioxide emissions. So if using public transit is sustainable and easy to do, why doesn't our community emphasize it? Reporter Adam Ortega found out why Omaha's public transit is obsolete and discusses how the city will fix it.
The Cornhusker State paves roads in every direction. Giant overpasses stretch directly out west to the suburbs. Small sidewalks and a lack of bus infrastructure make taking the bus a real hassle. Walk down Omaha's busiest intersection, 72nd and Dodge Street, and you'll see maybe a bench at a bus stop, if you're lucky. Tiny sidewalks pushed right against the deadly intersection aren't pedestrian friendly. UNO student Delia Hill has a unique take on the matter.
I walk about a half mile, and I get on the bus at 14th and Dodge. I probably take the bus most days, so 4 days a week.
Delia says winters can be especially difficult on the bus. She also mentions that her bus stop, like many other bus stops around the metro, doesn't have any shelter from the weather.
Well, since it's winter right now, the biggest problem is the sidewalks not being clear. The stop that I go to doesn't have any kind of box shelter around it. There are benches, but other than that, you're exposed to the elements. So if I wanted to go to a stop with a box, I'd have to walk up probably 1 or 2 blocks.
She mentions that the buses are rarely on time.
Definitely the timing. They're not punctual. One time my bus driver stopped the bus to go buy a soda and then got back on the bus.
Really?
Yeah. I was late that day.
Overall, she's hopeful for the future and is excited to see Omaha's progress within the next few years.
The city buses are supposed to get GPS tracking, which hasn't happened yet. They're supposed to get an app. So once I see some of those outcomes, I probably will be happy, but I think it has a long way to go.
If this is affecting commuters around the city, why aren't we doing anything about it? Dr. Bradley Brightshaft, a UNO professor teaching urban sustainability, has a solid explanation.
A very low density urban structure, probably like 90% of the city, just doesn't have the density to really support anything beyond a basic municipal bus.
The professor continues to explain that a city must have transit-oriented development, or TOD for short. It's the creation of compact, walkable, pedestrian-oriented communities centered around high-quality public transit. This makes it possible to live a lower-stress life without complete dependence on a car for mobility and survival.
Having something like transit-oriented development where if you offer a quick way of getting around that's convenient, that's pleasant, then around these rail stops, it makes sense. People getting off of these buses, like getting off a rail line, you can literally get to work in the other destinations without ever using a car, right?
But the future isn't all bad. The city of Omaha plans to construct a rapid bus transit line, or Orbit for short. The Orbit will be a dedicated bus lane running on the most congested intersections on Dodge Street.
Again, I see it as Omaha's first kind of foray into popular public transportation since the streetcars were dismantled.
The system will include raised stations to allow for level boarding and will offer a phone app to watch where the buses are using GPS systems.
So I think there's plenty of people that say it's great if we can get other people to use the bus because that means there's less congestion for us. And there's probably the argument for cleaner air too. I get more people out of the car, better air quality.
Traveling on the new Orbit line will be a unique experience for people who are used to riding the bus in Omaha. Omaha Rapid Bus Transit stations will be shelters built of glass and concrete.
With the talk of the streetcar line and things like that, I think people are maybe more willing to stick around and see what happens.
The 60-foot-long buses will have 3 doors. The $30.5 million Orbit line is being funded with federal and local sources, including a $15 million federal grant. So why has it taken so long for Omaha to invest in our transit system?
The cause is going to be the fact that we've invested for decades in automotive infrastructure primarily. Almost everywhere it requires an automobile to get around efficiently and effectively. I mean, if you can afford a car and to get around by driving, you're going to do it.
Transit has a large part to play in enabling positive economic and sustainable outcomes for Omaha. The Orbit line promises a more sustainable transit system with streamlined services, bus stops in closer proximity to people and jobs, and increased frequency of routes during weekday commutes. For MavRadio.fm, I'm Adam Ortega.
A lease agreement for 25 station sites for the Omaha Rapid Bus Transit Service took place last December on the Omaha City Council agenda. It promises faster travel on Dodge Street on sleek new buses that stop at high-tech stations every 10 minutes during rush hours. Metro officials hope the Orbit will be running by spring 2020. Adam, I know that you're at a bus stop right now in Omaha, and it's not as pretty as what these Orbit ones are going to be, but with them being so pretty, I have to ask, how much is it going to cost to ride the Orbit?
Right. So, yes, we are here on 62nd and Dodge Street. The Orbit is going to cost about pretty much what it costs now to ride the bus. You're looking at $1.25, a little bit cheaper if you are a student. You can actually ride the bus for free if you have a MAV card.
That's the good news. I didn't know that. All right. So when will Omaha start building the TOD in mind?
Yes, so transit-oriented development, we want to see, obviously, dense, walkable environments. We can see areas in Omaha like Dundee and Benson that kind of have mixed use. So you have like apartment buildings, you have like a bar right below it. And this promotes walking, right? You don't want to have to rely on a vehicle to live life. Like that isn't how it should be, but obviously we have so much automotive infrastructure. So this is a great beginning to transit-oriented development.
And with the transit-oriented development and the Orbit, will this change the desire for people to want to live in West Omaha, out in the suburbs?
So this is definitely a good start to that. You see a lot of recruiters, job recruiters, they're going to be looking for young, successful urban professionals who are going to want to live closer to, where the action is. I know we had a great story earlier today about the Old Market, and that's where you have your sustainable, walkable, pedestrian-friendly areas. So I think it's definitely a great start, and I hope that it continues in the future.
Well, thank you so much, Adam. You have a great day, and good luck if you're taking the bus today. Gabriel,
thank you.
Have you ever taken the Omaha bus system?
I took it once, and I went the wrong way, man.
Just completely the wrong way?
I was supposed to be going south, and I ended up at the West Rose Mall. And then it was late. I had to catch another one going downtown, and it took me like 2 hours.
They're
to get to
definitely
my house.
not user friendly here.
And the thing is, I was afraid to ask the drivers, like, how do I get to, my house, basically? And then it's just like, I get into this one and whatever it takes me, and that's what happened to me.
Yeah, isn't it weird? And then also, like, even if you're driving, where the bus stations are, like, you'll be going on Dodge at like 45 miles an hour, and then all of a sudden it's like,
good luck with that, yeah, because it'll just stop in there.
Come into a complete stop, like, right? And you're just like, ah. And then everybody's trying to get over to move past because they don't want to wait on the bus. It really is a mess. Have you lived in a city before that had good public transportation?
Mexico City, yeah. It is good and bad, but the subway system in Mexico City moves, I think last time we checked 7 million people daily. So still, crazy to
Is it
talk
on
about.
time, and is it reliable?
It is, for moving that amount of people, it is considered reliable, but it is a hustle.
Would you take it like all the time?
I did when we were kids. And it was scary. I remember that, going into the subway. I would never let my dad's hand go because it was scary, to see that many people going into the
I was
subway.
going to say, back in LA, I used to take the buses all the time. Like, LA's not known for its great public transportation by any means, but still, I don't know, for some reason I think it's almost better than Omaha, which is definitely kind of weird. But I'm glad to see that they're trying to, fix it. And this Omaha rapid bus transit system sounds amazing.
Yep, I hope that is one of those. Also adds up to those changes in the city that makes it, a better city.
Yeah, right. Because even just these little changes, they kind of have a ripple effect and make the whole city nicer as a whole.
That is what is gonna make the earth better. Yeah, the whole purpose of this show.
All right. Well, we're gonna take a quick break, but on the way back, we're gonna talk about green energy in Omaha. Thanks for listening to Earth Day Live 2019 on MavRadio.fm.
You are in a serene state of bliss, listening to Mav Radio's live Earth Day broadcast on KVNO 90.7 HD2.
You are listening to MavRadio.fm. Stay tuned for more of our annual Earth Day broadcast.
You use it every day, you flip it on, you flip it off, but do you really know how environmentally friendly the electricity is in which you use each and every day? For almost a century and a half, the main mode of energy development has required and relied on forms that are running out, causing swift actions from the Omaha community and the state of Nebraska as a whole. Shane Thomas reports.
In the 1880s, upon the advent of electrical power and the introduction of electrical lighting, energy development in the Omaha metropolitan area and the country as a whole have relied on power from sources that have now become not as readily available as once before. Visionaries such as Thomas Edison and Nikola Tesla out in the latter part of the 19th century figured out ways to distribute early versions of the electrical grid, relying mainly on what was used at the time, coal and natural gas. With the advancement of modern technology, scientists across America and worldwide have discovered alternative systems and ways to generate electrical power that can be recreated for generations. David Corbin is the energy chairman on the board for the Nebraska chapter of the National Sierra Club. He says there are several ways residents can contribute to the advancement of green energy.
And here in Nebraska, we have over 3,000 members, and we work on legislative issues, outings, going out in nature, protecting wildlife, so on.
Being the longest-running major environmental organization in the United States, the Sierra Club, along with local companies, have the ability to help make a large impact in the green movement.
Okay, we endorse candidates for one thing. So since we're in a public power state, Omaha Public Power District now has 5 people that are on the board of directors that are more environmentally friendly than they have been in the past. So that means they're more likely to endorse clean energy, low carbon, be believers in climate change, so on.
Through the use of science and engineering over the last decade, the city of Omaha has implemented new ways to ensure lasting energy independence. To relieve the strain on gas and nuclear power, the city of Omaha opened a windmill farm in Boone, Richardson, and Knox counties that would generate over 120 megawatts of energy over the last 8 years. Corbin notes that this in turn could have positive effects on the local impact.
The good thing about renewable energy is once you build it, you know what the cost of the energy is. It's zero.
The University of Nebraska at Omaha, one of the many schools in the eastern Nebraska area, has been excelling at implementing new plans to create a greener campus. Sarah Burke is the sustainability manager for the University of Nebraska at Omaha. She says there are numerous ways the university is creating a sustainable energy base.
So what we're doing right now is we're basically kind of researching options that the university has. available to itself. So one, we're looking at, are there any rebates that we can get right now on any sort of renewables?
Through her work as manager, Burke implements programs such as powered down buildings to increase improvements of energy independence within the university.
We actually get a lot of our energy from hydroelectric power.
Burke notes that UNO is going further than that to achieve energy independence.
One key thing, when we built the parking garage that's down on Pacific Street, it was built so that it can hold solar on its roof at one time. So they already put in the infrastructure so that it will be much cheaper for us to install it.
Though the university as an entity has made great strides to go green, Corbin says there are still efforts that could be done to further enhance it.
UNO in the Nebraska system's the only one that doesn't have solar right now. Med Center's got it, Lincoln's got it, Kearney's got it. Maybe have that, because it's also a learning experience to see, well, how does this work? When does it work best? All of those kinds of things.
Corbin says that Omaha overall has made additional progress as a city to initiate energy improvements. Whether it is the solar panels stand up on another local university campus or the wind farms in nearby counties.
For example, the coal plant in North Omaha had 5 units because of an organization called Beyond Coal, which is part of the Sierra Club. They converted 3 of those 5 units to natural gas, so they're only burning 2 coal units at that plant right now. So
of all the renewable energy options, solar looks to be the most promising. Once the infrastructure is set up, it's efficient and low cost to maintain. On UNO's campus, the effort continues to promote and improve this type of energy. The Scott Campus parking garage is a start, but realizing 100% campus sustainability is decades down the road. For MavRadio.fm, I'm Shane Thomas.
Nebraska's statewide electrical infrastructure consists in public power districts, municipal power systems, and rural cooperatives, all in which are non-for-profit organizations. Omaha, it is also home to the largest producer of solar power at Creighton University. Observing this modern masterpiece is Shane right now. Shane, how are you today?
Good, I'm doing great, Gabriel. I'm on 25th and Cummings right now. I'm looking at the solar panel right now. It looks amazing. Cars are going by. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for checking in. Happy Earth Day to you. I almost forget. I think I have to ask you, do you recycle?
I have done it before. I do not right now.
Okay, you are the answer that I didn't want to hear. So you and I'm going to have a conversation after the show. Hey, Shane, how much power does the solar farm generate for this university, for Creighton University?
Oh, as of 2010, the solar panel, coupled with the other energy bases, it can go up to about 120 kilowatts.
120 kilowatts, that's a lot of energy. Exactly what portion of the United States uses renewable energy, Shane?
It generates about 300 kilowatts, which can power up to about 5 billion homes across the United States.
Well, so that's also... There's another broad question here, but what is the operating cost of solar versus a nuclear plant, actually?
Good question you asked that. The difference, a nuclear plant usually costs about $6,000 to $12,000 to build and operate, versus that a solar panel can generate about $1,000 to generate about the same amount of energy as a nuclear power plant.
Well, that's a lot of money. It looks like we are aiming on the right direction, and hopefully, things just get better, Ryan. Great.
Growing up, my family actually had solar panels installed on our roof. Like, I don't know, when I was probably 14 years old, and they're still there today. So it's been over 10 years, and they still work fine. And I guess it just feeds right into like the city of Los Angeles' power grid, and then they just deduct however much power the solar panels gave back. They just deduct that off of the electricity bill. And, in Southern California, it's one thing. I don't know how practical it would be here in Omaha, because there's a lot of stormy days in Omaha, right? And, you get a bunch of snow on top of your solar panel. I don't know how much, solar power you're really going to generate.
We'll get that. That's right. But, I think we're aiming on the right direction. Shane, you have a good day. So, and to add on to that, Ryan, I remember a friend of mine also was looking to get his house run solar power years back. And we were talking about $30,000 to install the solar panels. However, just recently, and I read this just last year in the Omaha World Herald, it came down. The price to make your house run on fully on solar power, it came down to about $7,000 an average home. So that's, again, I think we're aiming in the right direction, and this is great news. It seems like it's more accessible to people to start getting into ways to saving energy.
And I think that'll be the key, right? As soon as solar panels become cheaper and more affordable for just anybody to buy them, that's when they'll become like probably a fixture on every house. Because I remember back when we bought them for our house in California, I think that when you bought them, it was kind of a known thing where it's like, hey, these are expensive, and you think that you're going to be making all this money back but like really no, like what you're doing here is you're helping the environment, because over the life of the solar panel, because they do eventually like age out, they basically say like you're just going to make your money back. Like you're going to put down, however much it was, like $10,000, and over the life of the solar panels, it's going to make you back $10,000. So really, like, you're not gaining anything from here, just knowing that you're helping the environment.
That's mainly the purpose of it. It also reminded me of something here real quick on Mexico. That is, last time I traveled there, water heaters are becoming solar too. That's another thing that it's big in Mexico. And I was surprised that the way they have this technology is you can have 2 cloudy days and you still have hot water just running from a solar system on those water heaters.
Really? They use what? So they use the solar panel to heat the water?
It is like the thing is it runs on solar energy. I'm not really sure. I didn't get to see exactly how that works. I just knew I had hot water and it was just powered by solar energy. So they're becoming popular, and people have them on their homes too. So that's another great thing instead of burning.
Do you think that like in the future all of us will have all these things? It'll just be a normal?
I sure hope so. But I'm still mad at Shane that he does not recycle.
Yeah, I know.
You're listening to MavRadio.fm. We're gonna come back with the next package about church donations. Stay tuned. MavRadio.fm.
You're listening to Mav Radio's award-winning Earth Day event. Don't go away. We'll be right back with more ways to help and appreciate the environment.
And welcome back to the 6th annual Earth Day Live here on MavRadio.fm. And food insecurity means that a person doesn't know where their next meal is going to come from. It is estimated that 41.9 million Americans live in food insecure homes. The Food Bank of America, on a national scale, brings attention to this problem. Reporter Kaylin Carlson takes us on an inside look to see how people in Omaha are helping combat this statistic.
1 in 6 children goes without food for at least 1 meal a day. Schools have meal plans in place to help combat that statistic. But what about their parents? Oftentimes, even if the kids do have food, the parents may eat less just so their children can grow. Marissa Carlson has been the director of the Benson Baptist Food Pantry for the last 18 years.
Well, it started as a way for us to reach out to those in need in the Benson community. A member of our church at that time was working for the Open Door Mission, and so they were looking for a place to host a food pantry. So with the help of Lillian Richards, Ernie Denniston, Ron Fenton, and the support of our church, we made that happen.
Each month, hundreds of people come through the church looking for food. Each recipient gets a main meat item, a couple cans of fruit, vegetables, and either pasta or rice. They also get some sort of frozen assortment of food packaged by the USDA. They start in the church gym, where they grab 2 loaves of bread from Rotellas, fresh fruit, potatoes, and oftentimes an assortment of baked goods from the local Walmart. They then travel down the hall to where they can shop for clothes that have been donated by the community. There, they are able to take whatever they might need. Products range from men's and women's everyday clothing all the way down to newborn outfits. Finally, they reach the box distribution portion, where the volunteers help pack carts, backpacks, and cars with the items each person receives. Ron Fenton is in charge of the box distribution.
Each month, a wide range of clients come through these doors. We pride ourselves in being able to provide and help them with whatever capabilities they have. We pack their backpack full or carry the box to their car for them. It doesn't matter.
Growing up with my mom leading the food pantry has helped develop my sense of service to others. Being 21 now, but spending each month growing up on a Saturday morning, helping those in need, I have been able to build relationships with the regulars we see each month. To me, they aren't just someone who needs a little extra help to get by. They are friends and family. You see, it doesn't matter what type of income you have, what kind of car you drive, or even what kind of clothes you wear. People in need are all around us, and they need our help. At the Benson Baptist Food Pantry, volunteers provide the next meal, or maybe a warm coat, but most of all, they provide hope.
At our food pantry, we strive to be the hands and feet of Jesus Christ and to reach out to our community and provide hope to those in need.
Omaha is home to well-known nonprofits such as the Lydia House, the Salvation Army, Goodfellows, and the Open Door Mission. But it's smaller ones like the Benson Baptist Food Pantry that serve as a supplement to offset those folks who might otherwise gone unnoticed. It's about serving others with an open mind and a generous heart. For MavRadio.fm, I'm Kalen Carlson.
The Benson Baptist Food Pantry has been providing the Benson community with clothes, food, and much more for the last 18 years. The church is located on the corner of 63rd and Maple. Reporter Kalen Carlson is there now. Kalen, how busy is it there at the food pantry? And hopefully everybody's getting some food and clothes if they need it.
Yeah, actually, right now they're not open. I mean, it's just the church. They only do it once a month. Get food out to everybody. Before we get on, yes, I do recycle.
Okay, if you don't, I'm gonna come at nighttime and I'm gonna pull your feet off the bed, man.
Just right away. Well, so Kalen, I know that you've worked there. So do you have any stories, or have you seen, lives change through the work of the food pantry?
Yeah, I mean, I've had the opportunity for my entire life, 18 years, as I said. My mom has been running it pretty much with the church and help there. I've seen a lot of lives change, but one specifically was more recently this winter. We had a lady come to church on a Sunday. Food pantries are on Saturdays, but she was just looking for help. She actually needed a pair of shoes, and typically we don't have too many pairs of shoes because it's hard to just keep everything stocked up. But we actually had one pair of shoes that was in her size that were comfortable enough that we were able to switch those out for her, and she seemed much happier, and they were a better fit for her. So it was just a really cool moment that we, by grace of God, were able to have the right size for her.
Kalen, what are the ways that people can help these ministries basically all around the country?
I think there's a lot of ways. I mean, food pantries are all around the country. Every street corner, it seems like almost, because there's so many people in need, and it's so hard to reach every single one of those people. I think just donating to your local food pantry. UNO has their Maverick Food Pantry. I know that you can donate there, or just help out. A lot of times they just need people to help pass out food on distribution days, stuff like that. Just anywhere. I would just ask.
Great. You already, I know that you recycle, but let me ask you then, what else are you doing for the environment?
I don't really spray any pesticides or anything. I know that we have a story about that coming up.
Okay.
But other than that, I try to mulch my grass more than just throw it away so that it just, goes back into the environment. I don't know if that's necessarily good for my lawn, but
composting is the next thing.
Well, thank you, Kalen, and
thank you.
Have a good time in Benson. So we're gonna take a quick break, and on the way back, we'll talk about going green and if Omaha can do better. Thanks for listening to Earth Day Live 2019 on MavRadio.fm.
You are someone who's ahead of the pack, someone who's smarter than their peers because you've chosen to listen to Mav Radio's live Earth Day broadcast.
You're listening to the Earth Day broadcast with Mav Radio.
Omaha is good, not great, just good when it comes to being green according to the international students. Omaha can learn from other cities inside and outside of the United States.
When you drive around Omaha, you might see a lot of luscious yards and beautiful landscapes, but what you might not see are the areas with poor quality lawns that use pesticides or have contaminated water. There is also an issue with the 280 million plastic bags the area gives out each year. As a community, some say Omaha can do better. Water consumption on your lawn is a major issue throughout the world. In Omaha, there are close to 200,000 homes, most of which have a lawn. Other countries that have more efficient ways of saving water than the U.S. include Saudi Arabia, Israel, Greece, and the United Kingdom. Some of the efficient ways consist of Israel recycling 85% of its tap water, and in Saudi Arabia they use renewable solar energy. Kim Yao, who is originally from Malaysia, a current student at the College of St. Mary. She describes the differences between the United States and Malaysia when it comes to lawn care.
Malaysia, people just put cement all over it because it's just too much work to take care of your lawn.
The average person in the United States uses approximately 50 gallons of water outside per week, while the average person uses approximately 119 gallons of water inside per week. If homes stop caring about their lawns and cut down on their water usage, it will waste a significantly less amount of water, and it will help to cut down on activities such as watering your lawn, playing in the sprinklers, or filling up your pool. Water isn't the only thing that lawns consume. Lawns are often poisoned by harmful pesticides that can be worse for your yard than you may think.
Pesticides that you put on your yard that get into local rivers and streams can kill off a lot of native plants and small animals, bugs, and crustaceans.
An environmental science major at the University of Nebraska in Omaha, Brandon Wolfson says one of the biggest things to help the environment throughout the U.S. or right here in Omaha is to use natural products on your yard instead of using the harmful pesticides that can end up hurting your lawn and much more.
A lot of like chemical fertilizers that people put on their yards and on their crops can wash into the river, the Missouri River specifically, and wash out into the ocean.
This can end up causing accelerated growth or unnaturally large growth of a dangerous algae called red tide, which can kill animals. According to studies done by the EPA, there are 30 commonly used chemicals in lawn pesticides that pose a danger to humans and the environment. 16 of those are linked with cancer, 12 linked with birth defects, 21 with reproductive effects, 25 with liver or kidney damage. It's not just humans that are affected. Chemicals from these pesticides are detected in our groundwater. All are toxic to fish and other aquatic organisms. Bees, mammals, and birds are impacted as well. Some solutions or alternatives for this pesticide issue include using oil spray insecticide, garlic insecticide spray, chili pepper insecticide spray, or tomato leaf as a natural insecticide. Pesticides are Omaha's only issue. The community also has a problem with plastic bags.
Plastic bags are a big thing here in Omaha just because I see them all the time, like on the side of the road or, just walking around in the park, and then I see it lying on the ground. So I think that's a big issue, and people just don't know what to do with them. They throw them away, but, the wind picks it up, and then it makes Omaha ugly.
According to the World Herald, millions of bags are used around the metro each year. 280 million are distributed by local merchants. In California, they passed a law in 2014 called Proposition 67, with the intent to decrease the amount of plastic bags on its beaches. The ban led to a huge decrease of 72%, bringing down the total amount of trash on their beaches to 1.5% coming from plastic bags. CoastalCalifornia.org states, in 2015, plastic debris on California's beaches accounted for over 80% of the trash. This could help give Omaha some insight onto how they should do things going forward.
I feel like they should encourage people to bring their bags, even if at the beginning people are not going to be happy about it, but eventually people will get used to it.
In Maine, a bill was passed in 1991 stating that retailers may only provide customers with plastic bags if there is a receptacle to collect used plastic bags within 20 feet of the entrance, and all plastic bags collected are then recycled. Kim says that's a good place to start.
When I go grocery shopping, I bring my own bag, or I try to go to Aldi's just because they discourage the use of plastic bags, so you kind of just have to use a box. So I really like that concept. It's also something that I do back home.
For MavRadio.fm, I'm Dan Kingery.
Now, when you drive around Omaha and see these delicious yards and the beautiful landscapes, note that there are areas throughout the metro that lack of having a good quality yard due to the pesticides and water contamination. There are also millions of plastic bags that Omaha gives out each year. And what are you doing about it to make it the Omaha goes green? Daniel is on the phone. And Daniel, what can the Omaha residents do to now prevent this?
So one thing is, while researching this with Brandon, was that, they need to have better educate their families, like parenting, educate their kids, and just do a better job in that area. And that's one thing they need to do, and that can help by teaching them to educate their kids by knowing, hey, we need to use less water, and knowing to come to the grocery store and reuse our plastic bags and do stuff like that. And I think if we did that, it'd make our community more knowledgeable of this issue.
And Daniel, you talked about how dangerous these pesticides can be. Is it expensive to make or even buy all these alternatives to try to keep bugs off of your lawn?
So alternatives for this issue include, organic insecticides, and they can be expensive.
they can be. It just really depends on the brand that you buy. And if you do want to make it your own insecticide spray, then it can be cheaper, probably about $20-$30, maybe a little bit cheaper. But if you try to go the route it's already made, it will be expensive, and it could be $40, $50, maybe even over $100. It could be pretty expensive.
Well, thank you so much, Daniel. I mean, if you're talking about saving the environment and saving money in your own pocket, Gabriel, I think you can agree that that's a win-win.
It is, but again, I think I'm seeing also that issue again. Trying to be greener. I guess it is also become to start at the beginning is expensive, just like any other process. Unfortunately, it is expensive. Like we were talking about the solar energy too. Unfortunately.
Hey, you know what though? The chemicals in these pesticides, they kind of scare me. And speaking of chemicals, kratom has been under the microscope of many states and lawmakers in recent months. Legal in Nebraska, kratom is a topical tree that is native to Southeast Asia. Its leaves contain compounds that have psychotropic or mind-altering effects. Since it's relatively new to the United States, there hasn't been much research by the FDA on it. Reporter Ray Cook dives into the impact kratom can have on one's life through a UNO student who started using kratom to help wean him off the addiction of other opioids. For privacy reasons, his name has been changed throughout the story.
Referred to as a natural opioid, kratom has been legalized in 44 states for its ability to combat chronic pain and opioid withdrawal. Its leaves get ground into a powder and can be smoked, brewed as tea, or taken as a pill or capsule. But what does kratom feel like? John Williams says it's very similar to a lot of other opiates.
Once you start using more, it's almost identical to any other opiate that you're using. Gives you a sense of euphoria and relaxation that other opiates would give you.
Kratom can cause effects similar to opioids. Two compounds in kratom interact with the opioid receptors in the brain, producing sensation, pleasure, and decreased pain, especially when users consume large amounts of the plant. Williams struggled for years with opioid addiction and heard positive effects of kratom being used to help people with opioid withdrawals. He wanted to get out of his addiction and turned to kratom as a crutch for help.
So I started using it, and at the beginning I kind of thought it was safe because it's legal. If something's legal, you kind of just subconsciously assume that it's safe. I started taking it regularly. Next thing I knew, I was taking it every day. So I realized I was spending way too much money and it was affecting my health. I said, okay, I'm going to be done.
Aside from the mental aspect of trying to quit something that has become an everyday habit, Williams found that the physical pain of withdrawal was too much to handle.
The next thing I know, I wasn't able to sleep at all. So I started feeling physical, like withdrawal symptoms that were just so intense that I had to basically go get some more to get rid of those problems. Same type of withdrawal symptoms to where it makes you feel like you need it, otherwise you literally won't. You feel like you're basically gonna die.
The painful reality for Williams was that he realized he couldn't stop on his own. He figured that his only option was to get medical help to cure the withdrawal of this legal substance.
Went to a detox center for 48 hours, and at that point they let me go. They gave me some medications to kind of help me get through without using it, and I really made people around me hold me accountable.
Sleep and anxiety, which were previously a non-issue for Williams, are something that he says spiked and caused him the greatest trouble when he tried to quit. So what is the reality of taking kratom, and can it be used beneficially for recreational use in those circumstances?
People think it's a good way to wean off of other opiates because it does help with your symptoms, but it's only helping because it's replacing it. While I think it could be used for those purposes, I think that it definitely would have to be controlled and prescribed by a doctor, just like any other drug that can help those situations.
Addiction itself is a topic that not everyone agrees on. In a sense, people can get addicted to anything. Marijuana, a substance that is federally illegal, is deemed by the FDA a Schedule I drug, meaning that the FDA defines it as something with no current accepted medical use and a high potential for abuse. However, there is no physical dependence associated with the use of marijuana. In the case of kratom, It's the physical dependence that really puts into question the legality of whether kratom should be able to be sold for recreational use.
Most of the time it's addicting mentally rather than physically. I think when it comes to the physical crutch that it becomes, like you end up taking it just to physically feel okay. I think that's really where the line needs to be drawn when it comes to the legality of things.
Just because kratom's legality can be questioned doesn't mean that there isn't legitimate uses for the plant. Williams acknowledges that even some of the reasons he started taking kratom are possible uses for the drug, but under different circumstances that are safer for the person using it.
There's totally uses for it, as far as, pain after surgeries or even handling withdrawal symptoms from other opiates. But I think that all of that should be controlled and have to be prescribed by a doctor. I don't think it's safe to be able to put the dosage just in the public's hands, for the person that's going to be using it to help them to just tell themselves they're going to use this much for this long.
Nursing student Rachel Reber, who has done research on kratom, says that many people take kratom based on the impression that it's a healthier alternative to other opioids. She also says that part of the reason for its legality isn't because it's been proven safe, but rather because it hasn't been well researched.
The FDA even states that kratom should not be used as an alternative to prescription opioids. It's just they have not done enough testing on it to understand the long-term effects.
The FDA recently warned consumers about the use of kratom, citing that it has many properties that expose users to the risks of addiction, abuse, and dependence. Digging deeper, Reber suggests that the painful reality of making kratom illegal could usher in more issues in a lot of different capacities.
Let's say it was made illegal. Would we have the room to incarcerate buyers or sellers of this drug? Do we have the capacity to hire on new officers? And these are all factors that need to be considered when thinking, should this be legal? Should this be illegal? It's not just about the effects on the body. And even if it was, we don't know what the long-term effects of this are. And we don't know the potential for abuse among a wide population of especially younger people. There are just so many things that are still unknown.
Lawmakers in some states have tried to make kratom illegal in the past, but signatures from citizens in those states have kept it legal. The legality of kratom is a complex and difficult question to answer, and it's something that may not be resolved anytime soon. Until we know all the facts, there is no way to be certain whether it is safe.
Super, super slippery slope once you start going down. And it's a lot easier to go down than it is to come back up. So that would kind of be my advice. Basically, don't fall into the trap like I did and people around me did.
For MavRadio.fm, I'm Ray Cook.
Kratom is currently legal in Nebraska. In 2016, the DEA announced that they wanted to label kratom a Schedule I drug, but due to public outcry, they withdrew their intentions until further research was done. They have not made any attempt to reclassify it since. Ray is live with us right now from Kansas City. How's it going in Kansas City, Ray?
Hey Ryan, how you doing? Kansas City is a lot like Omaha and Nebraska, whereas kratom is legal here. They currently don't have any laws against it, but they have gone back and forth in their legislation, a lot like Omaha has in deciding whether it should be legal or illegal. As of right now, as it stands, it's currently legal.
So how old do you actually have to be if you live in Nebraska to purchase kratom from the store?
Well, kratom's a psychoactive chemical, right? So it's not something that falls under the tobacco or alcohol parameters. But in this case, for all states in the U.S., you have to be 18 to legally purchase kratom. So while it's not tobacco, the law is similar to tobacco, and the buying age seems to be and fall under the tobacco range. So it's 18 all over across the United States.
Hey, Ray, can you tell us do you have any idea how many people have died from the use of kratom?
Yes, the FDA and the CDC reported that there were 43, and actually last week they just reported that was increased to 97 total deaths. And now in those 97 total deaths, there were many substances found, but kratom was the lone substance in 7 of those deaths. So there's directly 7 deaths that have been related to just kratom.
And the last thing, Ray, has there been any word on the FDA if they're going to try to reclassify kratom once again?
Well, like I said, that CDC article came out last week, so it's pretty new. The FDA's last thing that it has said is that it is still researching and doing intensive research to figure out just how dangerous it is. But it sounds like no legislation or laws will be passed until they conclude that research, but they have not given a timetable for when that will be.
All right, well, thank you so much, Ray. We're going to take a quick break, but as soon as we come back, we have another special guest in studio with us, the wonderful Megan Alexander. Thank you for listening to Earth Day Live 2019 on mavradio.fm.
You're listening to Earth Day, only on mavradio.fm.
You're listening to Earth Day on Mav Radio.
Welcome back to Mav Radio's production of Earth Day Live 2019. The flood that hit the Midwest has left a lasting impact, to say the least. Reporter Megan Alexander got an inside look at one Plattsmouth woman's home and a local company that's making a difference.
It's been exactly 4 weeks since the Midwest was swept away and devastated by the record-breaking floods. This home, owned by Plattsmouth resident Tammy Costanzo, was hit the hardest in her neighborhood.
It's just been overwhelming because I literally am working in and around and out of the house 20 hours a day, 7 days a week, and the flood happened 4 weeks ago. It takes a lot of people to get back, and I'm one person in here, and I've been trying to do as much as I can in 4 weeks, but I'm definitely needing some help, and I do have crews of people coming this weekend. My house is completely still open. I have no doors or windows on the back side.
Tammy mentioned her house got 9 feet of water, and she expects her house to take 6 months to a year to recover. She told me her family lost 30 years of memories in 24 hours. Hy-Vee was one of many companies that took part in donating to flood victims.
Hy-Vee was selling these Nebraska Strong t-shirts, which all proceeds went towards efforts for the flood relief victims. And along with the Nebraska Strong t-shirts, Hy-Vee was willing to donate cases of water to all the flood victims as well. And being an employee for Hy-Vee or in a company willing to do this for these people in need, it's an honor to be working for a company like this.
For the Omaha News, I'm Megan Alexander.
Flood victims still have a very long road ahead of them to recovery. Volunteers everywhere are encouraged to help. To make a financial donation, visit redcross.org/donate. And Megan Alexander is in studio with us. And Megan, the first thing I have to ask is, why did you pick this topic? I mean, the floods, they happened so recently, but what kind of drew you to it?
Well, Ryan, I gotta say, this really hit home for me. I mean, I got to kind of step out of my reporter position that I'm used to, and I got to just kind of look at this from a personal perspective. This hit my parents' neighborhood very hard. My parents were fortunate. The water didn't quite reach their basement, but they were having huge anxiety that whole weekend, sandbagging their house, helping neighbors, sandbagging their other homes. And the woman, Tammy, who I got to talk to, her house definitely got hit the hardest in Buccaneer Bay, that neighborhood in Plattsmouth. As it was mentioned, she did get 9 feet of water. Her granddaughter lived with her, and the granddaughter's bed had dead fish in it. Like her basement got destroyed. Her lower level got water in it as well. And she told me that she's a widow, so I really wanted to include her in my story, and I really felt for her. But the community has really come out and showed their support and donated to her, and I just was really moved by it, and it really hit home for me. I grew up in that neighborhood, and just to see it, underwater was pretty heartbreaking. But yeah, the community just really showed their support for each other, and I just definitely thought it was worth to cover.
So definitely, this is an event that changes your life. I think for the rest of your life, and unfortunately, it happens very often. It was just maybe 8 years ago when the other one happened.
Right.
It was terrible. I think
Right.
I'm sure there's people that still just recovering from that one, and we have another one happening. What comes to your head? I mean, personally, it comes to your mind something that we should do, that we can do. I mean, it's Earth Day, it's celebration.
It's a celebration.
It's a celebration, and sadly, these things happen in these days too.
Right. I mean, it's a flood. It's natural causes. What can you do? You can't prevent it, but you can do all you can to prepare for it. Luckily, they knew it was coming. I mean, not to the extent that it did, and Tammy sure wasn't prepared. Her house faced unfortunate circumstances that it did, and she's expecting to face at least a year before her house fully recovers. But it's definitely a hard time. But I mean, it's a flood. What can you do?
There's nothing you can do, unfortunately. Again, it happens so soon and
right.
so often that that's the sad part of it. Megan, thank you so much for being here in the studio. Thank you for the information. Let me ask you, do you recycle?
I do.
Nice. What else you do besides recycling for Earth?
What do I do to recycle? I do recycle. I just try to reuse things as much as I can and just not be so wasteful, and just was fortunate to talk to Ryan the other day about what OMAHA gets to do to preserve the environment as much as possible. So I try to follow in that footsteps, and just I try to stay away from plastic as much as possible, use paper when I can, and just use those things as little as possible. So.
And Megan, one last thing. Yeah. What do you think of when someone says like Earth Day? Like, what's like the first thing that pops in your mind?
Preserving the environment as much as possible and celebrating the beautiful environment that we get to live in every day. So happy to be here to celebrate it. So.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself.
Thanks for coming, Megan.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it. It was an honor to be here.
Well, vegan culture has boomed over the past few years. Now more than ever, people around the world are switching their traditional Western diet to a strict plant-based diet. Contrary to a vegan diet which excludes all meat, the vegan diet excludes meat and all animal-based products, meaning products such as eggs, cheese, milk, and other products that have been produced by animals are not allowed. According to the reporter Jay Brinkman, the vegan diet has become so popular that even collegiate and professional athletics are switching to the lifestyle. However, this epidemic might raise some controversy considering protein is essential for an athletics diet.
A normal diet for an athlete includes vegetables, carbs, and most importantly, protein. Protein acts as a muscle rebuilder in the human body. It is essential for athletes, especially because during exercise, the muscle breaks down. The only way to rebuild muscle is through protein. Athletic strength and conditioning coach, as well as nutrition coach, Chris Holden, knows the importance of protein in an athlete's diet.
If you don't have protein within your diet, again, you are constantly going to be breaking down your muscles, but without ever repairing them back. So you'll see people are going to be more inclined for things like stress fractures, overuse injuries, because they don't have that building block to get them back to where they should be or further on.
The rise of veganism has become more and more popular over the years. Studies show that there has been a 600% increase in people identifying as vegans in the United States in the last 3 years. According to global data in 2014, only 1% of U.S. consumers claimed to be vegan. In 2017, the number rose to 6%. The food trend has sparked inspiration from celebrities, artists, and even athletes. There are plenty of benefits behind going vegan, the major ones including clean, healthier eating, enhanced weight loss, and decreasing the risk of certain diseases. However, due to the popularity of the trendy diet, some athletes may be switching for the wrong reasons or simply just don't know how to.
They go and try it and they don't know how to really do it properly, so they're eating a lot of French fries and they're trying to just, cut meat and animal processed foods from their diet, and they really don't know, what can I eat other than salads and things like this.
For vegan student athletes such as UNO women's basketball player Alicia Mountain knew that the transformation from a traditional Western diet to a strictly plant-based diet would not be easy.
I did it like piece by piece, and I went vegetarian at first and then kind of tried to figure out ways to get a little more protein that way, and then when I moved back home, that's when I fully went vegan and just kind of did as much research as I can.
Even with the gradual ease into veganism, the absence of non-plant-based protein brings difficulty to Mountain. Protein not only provides muscle recovery, it also helps athletes remain full and have energy throughout games and practice. Mountain does not eat meat, so it is essential that she is getting the same amount of energy as her teammates.
I have to eat constantly all day, little snacks here and there. So with basketball and everything, it's really hard to make sure I'm eating consistently.
Mountain ensures that she is getting the right amount of calories each day to perform at her highest level possible for games and practice. However, protein from meat and other animal-based products provide a different type of protein compared to the proteins contained in plants.
A lot of plant-based proteins are what we would consider incomplete proteins. So in order to get a full spectrum of iron, vitamin B, different types of micronutrients that you can typically find like in steak, for example, you might need to get from 2, 3, 4 different types of plant-based proteins.
Despite the deficiencies in protein, Mountain has found a way that works for her. She makes time for meal planning and calorie counting to ensure that she stays energized throughout the day. The tedious schedule is worth it for her because she is fighting for something much bigger than herself.
I decided that I wanted to work with animals as a career, and so to me it just kind of felt like if I was going to be dedicating a career to working with and helping animals, then it didn't feel right to also be eating them at the same time.
For MavRadio.fm, I'm Jay Bridgman.
Alicia Mountain's not alone. A number of elite athletics have switched to vegan lifestyle. For example, Tom Brady, Venus Williams, and Kerry Irvin. The reasons might be different, although the switch serves as healthier lifestyle for the athletics and the earth. Great, how are you today?
Hi, I'm good. How are you guys?
We're good. Enjoying here the celebration of Earth Day. So, what would you say that the vegan culture in Omaha athletics is pretty popular?
Actually, I would say it's not popular at all, really. There's only a couple of vegans that I know that play sports here, and one of them happens to be Alicia. And I just think it's not as popular because a lot of people don't know about it. As mentioned in the package, it's just something that people don't really know is an option for athletes. So, and if they do, they don't really know how to go about switching their diet to a vegan diet.
And Jay, I have to ask, what is the ideal vegan lunch or dinner? Because I also would just assume French fries for everything.
Well, for college students, many people know we don't have, a great budget for a vegan diet. So just talking and sitting with Alicia, I kind of asked her, what are the things that you eat? Because we're so used to, most people are used to including meats and dairy in their diet. She told me that she eats a lot of veggie burgers, which is just like compressed beans, vegetables, all into kind of, it looks like a regular burger patty, but it's all made of vegetables, and then obviously vegetables too. So that's pretty much for collegiate students who are vegans, I think that's pretty the low budget vegan meals.
Thank you so much, Jay, and you have a great day.
You too. Thanks, guys.
Gabriel, what's really interesting is that now anywhere you seem to go, they always have some sort of vegan, like always a vegetarian option, but most of the time also like a vegan option.
They start to have vegan options there. Would you consider becoming a vegan?
I've eaten at a vegan restaurant here in Omaha called Modern Love, and it wasn't bad, but I don't know. I think I like chicken. I think I like chicken and like beef and stuff a little too much to give it up.
Yeah, the coffee shop I stopped by sometimes they had these vegan options, and one time that was the only thing they have, like scones or something like that. And I had one; it was good too. But I'm assuming just the time of getting used to it, I think.
Yeah, exactly. But as we said, a lot of the bars here in Omaha definitely have a lot of the vegan options, and that's not the only thing that they have. Bars in Omaha are a place where people can kick back after a long work week, relax, and enjoy life with friends over a drink. But when the bars get busy, plastics get overused, and thousands of straws and plastic cups and other items make their way to landfills. 2 bars in the Benson district of Omaha are changing the game. They're aiming to inspire people and other businesses in the metro to go green and cut down on the pollution. Reporter Jack Zippe drives into how the bars are going green and pushing for others to do the same.
There is always a rush once the weekend hits to get out to the bars, to meet up with friends, watch the big game, and celebrate life. But what people don't think about is after you had a drink, where the plastic cups, straws, napkins, and other items go after the bar closes down.
I never really thought about where my plastics and trash go at the bars. I never really thought about it until now, actually. That adds up quick. I mean, between me and my friends, I can't imagine what we go through on a good, busy weekend. I mean, let's see, we probably order about 3 to 4 drinks each, so roughly 16 drinks in our group alone.
General manager and owner of Jake's Cigars and Spirits, Abigail Lemke, is on a mission to encourage her patrons to go eco-friendlier. Abigail also owns Beercade in Benson.
One way that we have done that, moving towards the eco-friendly movement, is first our paper straws. That's a big waste, and it's just a one-time thing that you use and then throw away and don't think about again. And it ends up in landfills, it ends up in oceans, and so we made this conscientious switch to straws.
But it's not just recycling and switching cups and straws that make a big difference. At Jake's and Beercade, they persuade customers to use less paper and plastic.
During the weekends, we also ask people if they would like a straw ahead of time instead of just assuming that they would like a straw, which makes a little difference, but those little decisions can have a big impact.
She says a switch in drinking choice can make a big difference. But another component they use when the bar shuts down is just as impactful.
We also use green cleaning products around here and recycling. Just being aware of everything that you use in the bar and just trying to make an eco-friendly decision to move towards that. Those products are there. It's just making the change.
With Jake's and Beercade making the switch, other bars have taken notice to the movement. The vintage bar and pub known as 1912 is one of them. They encourage their craft beer drinkers to use more on-tap options and less cans and bottles. Calvin Saunders, bartender at 1912, has noticed the changes from more relaxed weekdays to the rush of the weekend.
It really starts from just like trying to be more recognizing how much we waste. Like we try and use glass as much as possible, try and stay away from plastic until it's like really that late night rush.
Calvin knows it's not easy to push for less supplies when the crowds get crazy, but they are making improvements to deal with the supply and the demand. Calvin says weekends are when most waste occurs.
Definitely Friday and Saturday night on our rooftop. Even we do have a glass washing station up there, but it can just be really hard for our bartenders and servers staff to keep up with the pace and wash dishes.
And how much do they really go through on a nightly basis with supplies like plastic straws?
So on a busy night, I would say that we run through roughly 600, 700 straws.
It's not just at the bar stools where visitors can make an impact. Calvin says he's noticed where people can help the environment where they might not even know it.
And not asking for a straw or saying, hey, a lot of times we get people that say, you can just use the same glass, you can just use the same cup. I mean, if you're cool with that, just holding on to it's the same thing kind of when you go to a party and they'll give you a cup and you write your name on it. It's the same kind of concept, just kind of holding on to your cup all night. When you're going to the bathroom, not using 5-6 paper towels, using the air dryer, kind of just hand drying your hands, air drying your hands. All those little steps really add up.
In 2018, 8 million metric tons of plastic contaminated the world's oceans, polluting the water and killing marine life. Americans account for 500 million plastic straws daily. Lemke wants to use her 2 bars to influence others to cut the use of single-use items and keep Omaha clean for generations. And for Calvin at 1912, they're helping others to go green and think twice before using unnecessary plastics and supplies. For MavRadio.fm, I'm Jack Zapay.
It's said by 2050 there might be more plastic in the water than fish. Let's go live to Jack now in the Benson Bar District. Jack, are you there?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Not bad. And I have to ask, do you do all of these things? Do you reuse your cups when you're out at the bars? Do you not ask for a straw? And, is it weird at first and then just something you get used to?
To be honest with you, I didn't really think about it too much before doing this story because sometimes you just go to the bars with friends and it's more of a social element and you really don't keep track of how many drinks you have, how many straws, how many napkins, and it all really adds up by the end of the night.
Let me ask you about I'm sure you heard about this reusable straws. I mean, you think it's a good option for, keeping away so much plastic out of the environment?
Oh, I think it's absolutely fantastic that a lot of these bars are really kind of having that drive to switch, and especially in Benson because they're really kind of trailblazing for this idea, and they're even motivating other bars in Omaha to do the same thing. And, I mean, when it really comes down to it, as said in the story, they go through about hundreds of straws each night at 1912 alone and in Beercade. So it's the little differences that really make a big impact.
Do the math, right? Yeah, totally. Well, thank you so much for being live with us, and you have a good day.
I do have to ask you, though, we've heard so many stories, and, I've learned so much today, right, that I didn't know before. So is there anything that you're going to do differently, from these stories or anything that maybe you'll notice, walking around the streets that you didn't before?
I have been working on this thing. It's about, it shouldn't be, now I think about this, it shouldn't be done this way anymore, but at least in my neighborhood, some places that I go to, I start picking up trash, man. That's I walk by, I see trash. Before I didn't care. Now, even if it's not mine, I just, that's kind of what I start doing. So I'm gonna really work on that again. You know
what? After hearing the Kratom story, the gas station that's right by my apartment, whenever I go there, they have a huge case of Kratom, and it's these pills that are sold for $25. and I never knew what they were. Like, I was never gonna take one, right? But I can't believe that like anybody, as long as you're 18, can just go and just buy that stuff right there. That's insane to me. As well as the straws. That 2050 statistic that Jack reported, where the plastic could outnumber the fish. Like, I don't know. I might have to invest in a metal straw.
We start to see more and more in social media about this. Wells being opened up in tons of plastic inside. That's it's insane, crazy. Well, Ryan, thank you so much for being here with me today. I hope you have a good time, like I did.
Thank you so much, and a special thanks to our producer Harrison Popp and our social media manager,
everyone that make this show possible. Thank you for doing it. Thank you all my radio listeners. I hope you had a good time like we did. I'm gonna leave you with one question. If you already recycle, what else are you gonna do, Ryan?
What am I gonna do?
No, everyone. And what are you gonna say about that?
I do recycle. And I will start picking up trash as I see. I normally do that already, unless it's like gross trash.
You gotta get better at it.
If it's a wrapper, I'll pick it up. If it's like wet, I'm out. Thank you so much for listening, and you guys have a great Earth Day.
Thanks for listening to Earth Day Live 2019.
You're listening to KVNO 90.7 HD2 Omaha, Power with Mav Radio.